Welcome to Intuitive Writer. I'm your host, Camille Chan. I'm a writer, a medium, and a story channeler. I have 23 published books to my name and counting. I have been writing novels for over 30 years, and for just as long, I have been channeling stories. I have spent my life in dedication to my craft, and what I've learned is that, contrary to popular belief, stories do not come from within. Stories come from without. Stories exist in the universe as energy, and they are waiting to work with writers just like you and me to be channeled on to the written page. I believe that so many writers out there are already channeling stories, but they're doing it from an unconscious space. I started the Intuitive Writer podcast and YouTube channel to help writers just like you shift from a space of unconscious creativity to a space of conscious creativity. Be sure to tune in every week for teachings that will help you incorporate intuitive writing into your everyday writing practice. I'm so excited that you're here. I'm so grateful to be part of this creative journey with you, and I look forward to sharing with you every week. Thanks for tuning in. Hello everyone, welcome back to this week's episode of the Intuitive Writer podcast and YouTube show. Thank you so much for being here. We are on episode 15 today, which is very exciting. When I started this show at the end of last year, I had no idea how long it was going to go, and here we are. The universe gives me content every week, so as long as it's coming through, I will be here. So before we jump into this week's episode, I had some news to share with you guys. Just this past week, I took on my very first private writing student, which is something I have never done before. And honestly, when I started this podcast, it was not something that was even on my radar at all. But I would say over the past month, I started getting a lot of messages around this type of thing, around private coaching and private instruction for writing students. And my first reaction was, oh, hell no. Because I have a very full plate, and I know that in order to put a new thing on my plate, something else has to go off the plate. So there's nothing I'm really looking to take off the plate at the moment that I haven't already taken off. So my first response was no. But the message kept coming through, and I was getting it from a lot of different places. So I spent some time in meditation and just asking the universe for clarity and some guidance and some understanding as to how this was supposed to look. Because when I looked at it from my perspective, it just felt really big and overwhelming. So I was asking a lot for clarity and guidance. And this is something that I did a whole episode on the art of asking. I think it was episode 4. So definitely go back and find it. But this is a practice that I incorporate daily, asking for help with whatever I'm working on, both in my life and also in my creative projects. So I was asking for a lot of help, and finally, sometimes I ask the universe to send me signs. So one day when I was asking for help, I said, okay, if I'm really interpreting this information correctly, and if I'm really understanding the message that's being delivered, will you please show me a peacock in the next 24 hours? And I live in Northern California, and there's no wild peacocks around here. So I guess in some ways it was a tall request. And so then I started thinking, okay, so I've asked the universe for the sign, like how's it going to come through? Am I going to see a peacock on my Instagram feed? Is it going to be like a funny Facebook meme? Am I going to see it on somebody's shirt? Like, how's this going to come through? I was wondering, and just staying open to it. And I got up that day to get some tea in the afternoon, and it was a super windy, stormy day. The wind was blowing so hard the trees were going sideways. And I glanced out the window, and I see this beautiful squirrel, and he's all white. I've mentioned before that I live next to this 200-acre park, and in this little tiny local community, there's this famous white squirrel, and I have seen him a few times in the park, but my house doesn't back up to the park. I'm actually quite a ways from the places where the animals live, and I've seen him in the park, but very far away from my house. But I looked out the window and there he was. He'd made quite the little trek. I don't even know how he did it, but to get into my yard, and he was running all over the yard. He ran right up to the window and ran in little circles underneath the window. And I was freaking out because my family, we are so into this white squirrel. Anytime we see him, we go crazy. So of course I grabbed my phone and I'm taking little videos of him for my daughter, and then I'm sending it to my family and all my friends that know about the white squirrel. So it was very exciting. And you know, by the end of the day came, and I never saw the peacock. Never saw the peacock that I asked for. And so when I asked the universe and I said, you know, hey, was I misunderstanding these messages? Because I didn't see the peacock today that I asked for. And you know, what I heard was, well, gosh, we sent you a white squirrel, which is way more unusual than a peacock. So anyway, so that was my sign from the universe that this was an alignment for me, was to lean into this concept of being a writing teacher. And I definitely consider myself a writing teacher with Intuitive Writer, but what I'm teaching more with Intuitive Writer is, you know, concepts on how to channel your story in and connect with your story. But I'm not drilling down into the technical aspect of writing. That's something I haven't touched on at all. And I think largely the reason I haven't touched on it is because I feel like there's so many other writing teachers out there. I wasn't sure if I had anything new to add. But so here I am, following my messages from the universe. I got my sign, my beautiful white squirrel, who has never been back since that day. Like I said, he's way deep into the park. I've never seen him over here by my house, but he came that day, and I got the message. And I also had the student come forward. The universe aligned me with the perfect student, and when I approached her about this, she was very open to it. It felt very aligned for the two of us. So I spent last week, I read her novel, and what I'm doing is I'm preparing customized curriculum based on her novel. So every week we're going to be getting together, and I already have the first week's curriculum done and ready to go. So we're going to do a deep dive into her manuscript, take it section by section, piece by piece, and we're going to polish it up to a spit shine so she can send it out to agents. So yeah, I'm excited to see where this is going. I have no idea how this is going to look for the future of Intuitive Writer. I don't know if I'm going to be taking on a lot of private clients, or if I'm going to be making courses, if it's going to be podcast content. I don't know. So I'm just staying open. I'm taking it a day at a time. I'm following what feels good. And yeah, so that's how I'm bringing this in. So I will keep you guys posted. Anyway, thank you for listening to my white squirrel story. Some of you may have seen the white squirrel on my Instagram story because I was so jazzed over seeing this white squirrel. I posted it on all of my feeds. So maybe I'll repost it again if I remember. Because he's so cool, you guys. And he's not an albino. He's actually all white. And I heard from somebody else that lives in our community that there's only a couple of places in the United States where they have white squirrels. And for some reason we have one. I don't know if we have more than one. I've only ever seen one by itself. I've never seen multiples together. So I don't know. All right, well, enough of that. We're going to dive into this week's episode. This week we are going to be tackling the topic of energetic and mental blocks around your creativity, also known as writer's block. But I'm going to be coming at this from an energetic, intuitive perspective, because I think You could probably drown in a Google search looking up remedies for writer's blocks. There's a ton of stuff out there. But I want to talk about it from an energetic, intuitive perspective and how you might be blocking the flow of these energies that are trying to connect with you and are trying to co-create with you. So I'm going to start with a little story because I love stories. Over Christmas break, I spent some time learning how to make Instagram reels, which was a very frustrating process for me. But anyway, I learned how to do it. And what I would do is I would batch them. I would make a group of them and I'd save them on my phone, and then I would just post them according to my schedule. But I found that I had a lot of trouble posting these Instagram reels. I had no problem posting slides and photos, but when it came to the reels, I would always get this error message, and Instagram would tell me, oh, connectivity issue, could not upload, try again later. And I would try for hours, like all day. And I'd move all over the house trying to get like the best internet connection. I'd stick my arm up in the air, trying to get closer to the satellite dishes or whatever. I don't even know what makes Wi-Fi work, but I thought that if I stuck my hand up in the air, maybe I could get it to work. But I was having a heck of a time with the connectivity. And then one morning, this is a great visual, you guys, but I'm sitting on the toilet in the bathroom with my phone, which I'm sure all of you are guilty of. And I looked down at my phone and I realized that I had the full bars. I had maximum connectivity. I was like, oh, look at this. And so I popped onto my Instagram and I hit upload on one of my reels, and I kid you not, the darn thing uploaded in like 5 seconds. So now anytime I go to upload an Instagram reel, I go into my bathroom, I stick the phone in the windowsill, and I hit upload, and the darn thing uploads every time without a hitch. So for whatever reason, this second story upstairs bathroom is the one place in my house where I have maximum connectivity with our Wi-Fi. And so this got me thinking, about creativity and intuition and connecting with our stories and how we as creators and writers can maximize our creativity, our connectivity. And I wish I could tell you all to go into your bathroom to maximize your connectivity and to maximize the flow of your intuition. But unfortunately, it's not your physical location. It's all the internal stuff that needs to be in the right spot and that needs to be in alignment. It's not your physical body. It's all your internal spiritual stuff. So what we're going to talk about today, I have 3 things that you can do to increase your connectivity, increase the flow of your intuition and your connectivity with your stories and these other energies that want to co-create with you. So let's get to number 1. I'm not going to lie to you guys, some of these things that I'm going to be talking about, they're not easy to implement. And some of them in particular, for me, this was not something I did immediate. It was something I had to bring in over a period of quite a few months. So I just want to preface this lesson with that. Just be gentle to yourself, be loving to yourself, and sometimes it takes time to make the changes that you need in your life, and that's okay. If you're not ready right now, it's okay. Honestly, the first step is just an awareness that changes need to be made, and just having that awareness is the first step in, finding the courage to do what you need to do to live your most creative and intuitive life. So let's start with number 1, and what we're going to talk about is numbing. All right, we're going to ask you to take a look at your life and see how you're numbing. Now, there is a scale. I've talked a lot about the importance of leisure and having fun, and how self-care and self-love is actually a great way to recharge your creative battery. So what we're talking about here is a sliding scale. On one end, we have numbing, which is not healthy, which will block your intuition and your creative flow. And on the other side, we have intentional self-care, self-love, and that actually recharges your creative battery and increases your connectivity and your flow. So let's talk about the scale and see where you might land. So let's take an example of each. So I know so many writers out there, myself included, we have jobs to pay the bills and medical insurance and all that kind of stuff, fund family vacations, and that is totally okay. So let's say you come home from work and you're really annoyed because, your coworkers were being shitheads and, there's just all this frustrating stuff at work. And so when you come home and you're feeling frustrated, you kick off your shoes, make yourself a martini, have dinner with the family, and then turn on your favorite show and binge watch 4 episodes, throw back another 3 or 4 martinis, and then before you know it, the night's gone, you're wasted, you haven't opened your computer or done anything to work on your story, and you go to bed feeling even more disgruntled because not only did you have a crappy day at work with your shithead coworkers, but you spent the whole night being angry about it and getting drunk and not honoring your creativity. And now it's time for bed and a whole day's gone and you haven't done anything to answer that creative spark that's within you. So that's an example of numbing, and I think everybody, if they're really honest, can look at their life and they can identify moments when they do things like that go beyond self-love, that go beyond self-care, or intentional relaxing or unwinding from a stressful day, because we all have stressful days, right? And there's healthy ways to de-stress, and then there's the unhealthy ways to de-stress. So this is what we're talking about. So let's take the same scenario, bad day at work, come home stressed, and you do need to unwind because you're not going to be able to tap into that creative flow because you're stressed out. So same thing, make a martini, sit down, have dinner with the family, but afterwards you turn on the TV, you watch one show, right? You just have the one cocktail instead of 3 or 4. And after you have that time to catch up with your family and relax with a drink and enjoy a TV show, then you grab your computer and write for an hour or half hour, whatever your normal schedule is for writing. So do you see what I'm talking about, this difference between numbing versus self-care? With self-care, you're really honoring your creativity. You're taking care of yourself because you know that to channel in your stories and to have maximum connectivity with these energies that want to work with you, you do need to recharge your battery. You do need to de-stress and let go of all the yuckiness of the day. So it's a very intentional process, this unwinding and relaxing and having fun, and it's all leading you toward this divine creative purpose that we all have as artists and writers. So the first thing I want you to do is just take a really hard look at the things that you're doing and figure out what's self-care and self-love and what's self-abuse and numbing. And I will be completely honest with you, my drug of choice for many years was exhaustion. I embraced exhaustion like a friend, like a bestie. I wore the badge of exhaustion with pride, and I was numbing. I'll be honest, I was totally numbing because I had a lot of fear around stillness, and I had a lot of ridiculous beliefs about productivity and what it meant to be showing up every day and living your purpose. And I thought it all equated with exhaustion, that I was wasting my life if I gave myself some downtime or relaxation, or that I was failing somehow if a minute of the day went by where I wasn't being productive or taking a step forward in reaching a goal. And it was a hard one to break, I'm not gonna lie. Especially in our society, it can be cool to be tired and exhausted. It can be cool to be busy, and you can buy into that, especially depending on who you're hanging out with. You could have an entire exhaustion club, a whole group of friends who's on the crazy train with you. So yeah, I had to take an honest deep dive at look at myself, and realize that exhaustion was not serving me. And with COVID, there were some changes that were made just because of the circumstances of the world. And as I found myself getting rest and feeling great and not feeling like I was just going to drop from exhaustion every second of the day, the channeling really kicked up. I mean, I'm telling you, it was just like, wow, look at that. Look at all this stuff that I'm receiving, these stories and these characters. Things are coming through all the time, and they're coming through fast, and I'm getting huge downloads. So the numbing was a huge, huge thing. And, we all choose to numb in different ways. So yeah, you're gonna have to take a really hard, honest look at yourself. And it might not even be obvious right away, but just let it ruminate and, commit to evaluating yourself and your daily practices and seeing where you can bring in self-love and where you can kindly show your numbing habits lovingly out the door. The second thing that we're going to talk about today is taking a really hard look at what you are giving space to. I've talked before about how we are finite energetic beings, and we have a threshold capacity. There's only so much energy that we can give to things and events and people in our lives, right? We have a maximum amount of attention that we can give to all these various things in our life. And the more time that we spend paying attention to all of the crazy stuff that's around us every day, the people, the events, all that stuff, the less time we are spending giving that attention or allotting that energy to our intuition, to our creative purpose. And this is a really interesting one. And what I'm going to ask you to do is take a piece of paper or your journal, and for a week, I want you to write down every day all the things that you are giving your attention to. And yeah, just really taking a look at all the things that are taking up your attention. And, I think you might be surprised, because something that you do, it might not physically take very long, but it actually might take up hours of your attention. So I was trying to think of a metaphor for this. So let's say you have your lunch crew at work, and every day there's a group of you, you go have lunch together, and maybe it's a very negative sort of lunch space. Maybe you're gossiping about other coworkers, maybe you're complaining about your boss, complaining about the company. I mean, whatever it is. This is just an imaginary scenario, but let's say even though it's only 30 minutes, but let's say that the information that, maybe you learned something icky about a coworker, or just like the negative vibes of hating on the company or hating on global situations, whatever. But maybe you take that home with you, and then you have a hard time going to sleep that night because you're so busy thinking about all of this stuff, and you're giving so much energetic attention and so much energetic space to this garbage. I mean, let's be honest. Work gossip, it's garbage. It doesn't serve you. It doesn't serve you. So you're allocating these very precious resources to garbage. It's not always garbage. That's very judgy. I shouldn't use that word. But we're allocating our resources, right? These are precious resources, and we're all here to do many things in this lifetime. But for those of us that are driven to write and to create things and to put them out into the world, these are resources that we're taking away, that we're diverting this energy and attention from something that we truly care about, that's a soul calling, and we're giving it away to things that don't matter as much. So that's what I want you to do, is to make this list and look at all the things that take up your attention every day. And then you have the very, very difficult job of figuring out what is not serving you. And this can be really, really hard because, I mean, this could be a friend who is just a total like Debbie Downer or an energy succubus, and maybe that daily coffee date or that weekly coffee date that you have with this person, maybe it ends up like spilling over for days, and you're giving your attention and your energy to somebody else's drama for days. So you really have to take a hard look, and you have to make changes, and it's really difficult when it's peers or it's your friends, your social circles. It's really, really hard. But here's what I truly believe. I believe that the people that are meant to be in our life, the good ones, they're going to stick around. So your friends at work, if you went to them and said, hey guys, love you all, I enjoy our lunches, but I'm really finding that I just need some alone time. So from now on, I'm going to go have my lunch in my car, and I'm going to listen to music and decompress. And you know what? The ones that are truly your friends, they're going to support you. They're going to say, okay, how cool, that's great. And the ones that aren't your friends, well, you don't need them anyway. If they're grouchy or pissed off about it, well, good riddance. The universe is showing you who you don't need in your life anymore. So yeah, you have to take a look at what is not serving you. And when you eliminate the things that aren't serving you, you make room for other things to come in, like your stories and your characters, and you give conscious space to your creativity and your divine purpose to write these stories and to share them with the world. So I'm going to tell you what I gave up a couple of weeks ago, and I have to tell you, I have been receiving messages about giving up this particular thing for quite a while. I'm going to say 1.5 years, but if I really want to be honest, it's probably closer to 2 years. And I received this message to give up this particular thing in many different forms. Sometimes it was straight up spirit guides coming to me and saying, yeah, you don't need to be doing that anymore. And then sometimes it would come out physically, where I physically would not be able to do these things. And so what I gave up was ultramarathon races. And this was a huge, huge part of my life. And it's been cooking for quite a while. And like I said, I've known for a while that it had transitioned into not serving me anymore. And the first time one of my guides stepped forward to tell me this, I was like, oh, fuck no. Watch me rock free will right here, okay? I'm going to do what I want. I'm not giving that up. That's really what I said. And so I didn't. I refused to give it up. And I got injured. And again, I was exhausted all the time, physically exhausted. And I should say that running ultramarathon races, there was a point in my life when it was incredibly important to my growth. Nothing has instilled confidence in me like ultra running has. There's something about, running 50 miles or 100 kilometers that when you do this, you come away knowing, like in your soul of souls, that you can do anything. You put your mind to it, you can do anything. So it was a huge confidence builder. And I don't know if I would have come to that confidence that quickly and that profoundly if ultra running hadn't found its way into my life. And ultra running also led to my most popular series. It's my bestseller. It's my zombie series about ultra runners in the apocalypse. And that series could never have come to life if I didn't have this true passion for running. So there was a point in my life when it was so, so important, and it played a huge role in so much growth and expansion that I needed. But all things that start out good, it doesn't mean that you're meant to keep them forever. Maybe a friend that you had was wonderful for a period of your life, but maybe you've outgrown them, or a social circle, whatever it is. Things don't necessarily have to stay in your life forever. And that's been a very hard lesson that I've learned over the years. But yeah, so ultra running was this beautiful thing that I had. And I have so many friends, you know, it's a big part of my community. And when you go into my Facebook feed, all it is all my running friends and everybody posting running pictures. Even during COVID, people are always posting running pictures. So what I did was I very publicly went onto my Facebook feed and I said, hey guys, I am officially not going to sign up for any more ultramarathon races. And I explained to them why, that I just realized that there were other things in my life that were super important and that I needed to let go of exhaustion and the pressure of having to train because it was taking away from other things in my life. And I have to tell you, when I hit post, when I posted this, it was like a boulder fell off my back. I had no idea how heavy it was. I had no idea how much space it took up. I mean, I knew that I loved it and I was obsessed and consumed with it, but energetically, I didn't realize how heavy it was. And so this energetic boulder, it fell off my back. And I had about a week where I felt this void around me. I was like, holy shit, I just made this huge void, and I knew something was going to come in. That was the other thing. I could feel new energy kind of circling around me, and I knew it was going to come in, and it has started to drop in over the past few weeks. I've been getting lots of new downloads for a new project. So I was like, wow. I mean, it was kind of an amazing experience that, yeah, you know, I needed to let go of that because it was blocking my connection to, you know, new energy that wants to come through me and be expressed. And here's the cool part. You know, like I said, I do have a really big community of running friends, and, you know, the ones that love me, the ones that are my friends, no matter what, you know, they're still there. I had so many come forward and say, oh my God, you know, me too, me too. And one of my nearest and dearest running buddies, he sent me a message and he said, hey, can we throw a retirement party? Which I love. It's like, yeah, let's have a party. Let's celebrate, like, letting go of this energetic boulder that's weighing us down. And this doesn't mean that I'm not going to exercise. This doesn't mean that I'm not going to run. I am a firm believer in exercising and taking care of your body. So I'm still out on the trails 3 or 4 days a week. But guess what? I am moving much slower and I'm covering much less distance. And it's awesome, you guys. I'm not getting injured. I'm having fun. I'm not feeling overwhelmed. And it's feeling like it's a really healthy part of my life instead of this energetic boulder that's weighing me down and blocking me from receiving new energies that want to co-create with me. So, like I said, it's hard. These things that I'm talking about that block your creativity and block the things that want to channel through you, it can be really, really hard to make these changes. But I know you guys can do it, and it's okay if it takes time. It's okay if you have to sit with things. I've been building up to this for months and months and months, and I just wasn't ready. I wasn't ready to give it up. But when I was finally ready, it felt really good because it was on my time. But I needed months to work on it, or actually maybe years from the day I said, fuck no, watch me rock self-will, to the day when I actually hit send on that Facebook post where I publicly gave it up. So yeah, it's okay. It's okay if it takes time, but just knowing that you need to make that change is going to be your first step. Now we're going to jump into the third and final block around your creativity. And I'm sure there's more, but this is a pretty heavy episode, you guys, and the work that I'm inviting you to do, it's heavy. So we're just going to have 3 today. But who knows, maybe I'll have an episode in the future with more things that we can all do together to increase our connectivity with the universe and to help us channel in all of these beautiful stories and adventures that want to come through us. So number 3 is to lean into your fear. Now, I know that as an artist, fear is something that I think we all battle daily, right? It's fear of not being understood, fear of this amazing thing that we work so hard to create, you know, getting rejected or getting a bad review, or, you know, or someone making fun of it, whatever it is. Like, it's really scary to be an artist and, you know, to be called as a human being to create art, create stories, and to put them out into the world. It's fucking scary, right? I mean, you guys all know it's so scary. And I have battled this fear my whole life. And I'll share more on that in a later episode. But I'm going to keep it a little more concise for right now, what we're talking about. So when I'm talking about leaning into your fear, take a look at your story, your whatever you're working on, and try to identify something or some aspect that you're playing small. For example, I have a very quirky, odd sense of humor. I have the sort of sense of humor that if I crack a joke in a room, I either annoy people because they think I'm being rude, or I get blank stares, or I have people trying to figure out, was she being funny? We can't tell. Like, what's that weird thing that she just said? So I remember this was many years ago, probably 15, 20 years ago, I made this conscious decision that, oh, funny Camille goes into the closet when she leaves the house. And funny, wacky Camille only comes out when she's home and when she's safe with her husband, because he loves her unconditionally, and I can be as weird as I want to be, and he knows, and he'll laugh with me, or he'll just look at me and tell me I'm weird. That's okay too. But I felt very unsafe and vulnerable letting out this kind of like weird, quirky person that's inside of me. So I put her very neatly in a cabinet, and I'd leave the house and I would go about my day, and I would only let her come out when I got home. And, you know, my sense of humor is a part of my creativity. So I responded to that fear very negatively and chose to lock it away and lock myself away and to play small. So over the last couple months, I have been leaning into that fear a little bit more and embracing it and trying to step through it. And the venue that I've chosen for this, besides, you know, my personal interactions, is my Facebook and my Instagram author pages. So not necessarily my intuitive writer pages, but my Camille Picott author pages. And I'm letting the weird funny girl come out. And I'll give you an example. I did a post the other day, and I put up a picture of a rectal syringe. And did you guys know this was a thing? I didn't even know they had rectal syringes. I was at the drugstore and I was looking for a jar of Vaseline, and I found these rectal syringes, and I was just cracking up in the aisle like, oh my God, this is like the best thing I've seen all day. So I took a picture of it and I put it up on my Instagram and my Facebook, and I had some funny caption like, oh, make sure you have one of these in your apocalypse bunker. And what's interesting is I only had a couple of people that responded, but Instagram sent me a message a couple days later, and it told me that it was one of my top performing posts. It was doing like 80% better than all of my other posts. So that was just cracking me up. And it was a good validation that, yeah, like it's okay to let this kind of silly, weird, goofy girl out of the closet, because, I mean, come on, rectal syringes are hilarious. I don't even know what you do with them, but it's hilarious. And yeah, and it's okay to lean into that fear and let her out of the closet. And what's been interesting as I've embraced this, I used to find it difficult to make posts regularly, you know, try to come up with things. But since leaning into this fear around my sense of humor and just allowing myself to post things that I think are funny and not worrying about if other people think they're funny, A, I'm having so much fun. It's very liberating. But B, I have, ideas for posts all the time. I started having so many ideas, I had to get a separate journal just to write everything down, because I have way more ideas than I do time to create them and time to post them. So I have this log that I've started so I can go back and keep things coming. So honestly, I was blocking myself. I was blocking this creative flow and this like funny, quirky humor that wants to come through me. And there's so many ways I think that artists hide. And another thing that comes to mind is I know that a lot of people that write sexy romance, they write under pen names. And I don't know why they do this. I have no idea, but I can imagine that on some level, it's really scary to stand up and to say, yeah, I write sexy romances, that, you know, I sit at my computer and I write about penises and vaginas and wonderful athletic positions. Right? And so I imagine that a lot of people have pen names because in some ways it's really scary to stand up as that person. You know, imagine if you wrote kinky stuff like 50 Shades of Grey and you know, your kids go to some crazy stuffy private school, and you know, you'd probably be terrified to let people see this like creative wildcat side of you. But like, then again, like imagine how powerful that would be to your creativity to, like, you know, show up with all these other moms at school and say, yeah, I write about handcuffs and whips and all this, you know, bondage and whatnot. Because honestly, all the moms would probably be lining up. They'd probably all want signed copies, let's be honest. Politics and moms at schools can get a little interesting. So, but I mean, whatever it is, however you're hiding as an artist and being fearful and playing small, and there might be a lot of areas that you do this, but maybe just pick one thing to start and lean into it and embrace it and see what happens, you know, like just own it and be authentic and see what happens. This funny little rectal syringe story that I shared, it's like I opened a new door, and my inspiration for creating posts to engage with my fans on a daily basis, it's like a floodgate. I mean, it's been amazing. I don't struggle with it anymore. So yeah, it can be beautiful. And again, I know how scary it is to be an artist. I know how vulnerable and how exposed. I mean, gosh, even just saying out loud that you're a writer can be terrifying, right? Because there's so much judgment around it. And, you know, you're not a real writer unless you're on a bestseller list, or you're not a real writer if you're not making $1 million a year. And that's all garbage, you guys. You're a writer because you open up your computer or you grab your notebook and you write. I mean, that's all it is. That's what being a writer is. But yeah, we can all let external things and a need for external validation make us so small and hide and respond to the fear in ways that shut us down and make us small. And we kink this hose, you know, this energetic hose to the universe. These energies that want to flow to us and work with us, we block them by doing this, by playing small and not being real. So that's Number 3, the third assignment that I have for you this week is look where you're playing small as an artist. Identify where you're responding to fear and, you're reacting to the fear rather than leaning into it. Above all else, you guys, remember that the desire and the urge to be creative is a divine purpose. It's a divine calling. It's part of the reason that you're here. And it's so beautiful. It's so beautiful. So I really hope that you guys take this week's episode to heart and start working on making some necessary changes in your life so that you can increase your connectivity and channel in all this amazing stuff that wants to come through you. I really hope you do. Feel free to reach out to me anytime on Instagram at Write with Intuition. I'm on there every day. I'd love to hear from you. If you have any questions, send them my way. If you have enjoyed this episode, please share it on social media. Please share it with your friends. Please subscribe to my channel on YouTube or on your favorite podcast platform. I would really appreciate it. And if you are interested in being on my mailing list so that you can get a coupon when I release my Intuitive Writer Activation Workshop, there is a link in the show notes to join my newsletter. I will be back next week. I hope everybody has a lovely day. Talk to you soon.